this bun situation is completely unacceptable. What happened to it? Cindy Lou Who. The bun had to go. I look somewhat normal now, I guess. First and foremost, we are going to do our Dutch word of the video. And the Dutch word of the video is one that my husband asked me to do for this one. It's something that sometimes he calls me, and it's just a term of endearment towards your significant other, and it's schatje. Basically it means like sweetie, darling, treasure, babe, something along those lines. He used an example of je bent mijn schatje, which means in literal translation, you are my little treasure. It's very, very cute. And I originally, when he told me this one, I thought he meant like schietje, which is Dutch for, I believe, little fart, because I call him poopy all the time, which means little shit or little poop. I originally thought that's where he was going with it, but no, it's schatje, which is just calling somebody your sweetie or your treasure. So it's very, very cute. On to the video. Today's video is just going to be a little one. It's not going to be, you know, something too in-depth or anything like that. It is the top 10 books I always recommend people. Whenever people ask me for a book recommendation of any sort, whenever anybody asks me for a book recommendation, these are the 10 that I always go to first. Until somebody tells me I'm not into that kind of thing, I switch to something else, but these are the top 10 books that I constantly recommend. Number 1, here we go. This should come as absolutely no surprise to anybody who actually knows who I am as a person, who, when it comes to my love of books, when it comes to my favorite book of all time, this book is my favorite book ever written so far, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This book follows Addie. She is basically being forced to marry somebody. This is set in, what is it, the 1700s or earlier? 1714. So I was right, it is from the 1700s. So originally set in 1714, Addie, she is basically being married off. She's being forced into a marriage, and she does not want to do it. She ends up running away into the forest and praying to, you know, any of the gods that will listen, and one answers her and tells her, yeah, I can get you out of your marriage and, you know, have you live the life that you always wanted to live, but you're gonna be immortal. And every single time you go and meet somebody, they'll never remember you after that you leave their sight. So she goes to her parents after making this deal. She goes to her parents thinking like that can't be true. It's her parents. She goes to her parents' house and they have no idea who she is. She's outcasted immediately. So she's forced to travel the world alone, and she does so for 300 years, 300 plus years, I think, until she meets somebody who remembers her. She walks into a bookstore one day thinking everything's gonna be fine, and then she goes back the next day, and the person that was there the day before says, oh yeah, I remember you. And she does not know how to act because no one ever remembers her. And actually, in this, like right here, the little excerpt here, says 3 words large enough to tip the world, I remember you, on this little part here. This is a book that I deem beautiful. It is gorgeously written. There's a reason why that's my favorite book of all time. And honestly, not to get too like personal or whatever like that, I always call myself invisible because maybe I've changed a lot as I've grown with weight loss, weight gain, weight loss, weight gain. I don't know, but I'm invisible. There are people that I had known for years and years, and then, you know, I recognize them when I see them on the street, but they look right through me, like they don't remember me. So I relate to Addie in a way that is difficult. Like I don't want to relate to this character and always being forgotten, but that's how I feel in my everyday life too. I feel like when I'm not useful anymore, I'm forgotten immediately, and it sucks. So I relate to Addie on a personal standpoint. And then on top of that, when Addie finds somebody who remembers her, it's like a cherished moment that she never wants to let go of. And again, I relate to that as well. So yeah, first book that I recommend to everybody who wants to get into reading, who wants to start reading, is always The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I actually gave a copy to my best friend and begged her to read it. I hope she reads it. This book means absolutely everything to me. Everything.
Intermission.
Intermission.
Pill time.
Oh, is it pill time?
It's 10 o'clock.
Oh, it's 10 o'clock time for pills, y'all.
Take your meds. Take your
Always.
meds, kids.
Always take your meds on time. The next book also means a lot to me. And the reason why it means a lot to me is because it is my first romance book I've ever read. Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is the romance book that I tell people to read. Like I think every person I know that has asked me what romance book to get started with, I always recommend this one. Age gap, boyfriend's father. Well, is it boyfriend or ex-boyfriend? Because I feel like they didn't really kick off until they were exes. Severe age gap, single dad, boyfriend's father. It is not only hilarious, it really got me right into romance. Had I read anything else, I probably wouldn't be as into romance as I am. But this taught me that I like certain tropes. One of them is the age gap trope. I really like it. Another one is forced proximity. So this book follows Jordan. She has a boyfriend who isn't really like into like maintaining a house, basically a home for them to live in. Essentially, they fall on hard times and they have to move in with his father. Jordan, while waiting for her boyfriend, this is before they move in, she's waiting for him outside of a movie theater. He doesn't show. An older man, it kind of just starts chatting her up, and they end up, spending time in the movie theater together and watching the movie or whatever. Nothing really comes of it because, she's younger, he's older, whatever. They move into her boyfriend's father's house, and it's the guy she met at the movie theater. So immediately it's just, oh God, here we go, right? Jordan ends up finding her boyfriend cheating on her, and she ends up taking his daddy. It's so it was amazing. I've read this book so many times. There is a scene in here that I won't tell you what the scene is, but it's so funny. I know exactly where it is in the book. I know what page it is. It's so funny. It's like the most iconic thing that I've ever read in a romance book, because I don't think it's something that I would say to somebody, but it's something that I would want to say to somebody, So Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas was my very first romance, and it is always the romance book I tell people to pick up if they're starting in the romance genre. The next one is also a romance, and I have been talking about this author repeatedly on many videos. I'm just gonna keep talking about her because she is the one who gets me out of book slumps. This is Talk Flirty to Me by Livy Hart. This is Livy Hart's first novel. This is her debut. I read this book and immediately fell in love with the characters and with the author. This book is just, so it follows Sam and Piper, okay? So Sam and Piper, they used to date back in high school. They had a falling out. Piper is a audiobook narrator, and she's having problems finding work. She has to move back in with her parents, and her ex-boyfriend is actually her brother's best friend. Yes, not only is it ex-boyfriend, it's brother's best friend. So it's second chance tropes. It is very, very close forced proximity, because she ends up getting a job as a narrator for an audiobook, but the audiobook it's basically like a duet. So she asks Sam to voice the male part, and they both don't know until they're getting into it that it is a romance novel, and they're having to say some pretty sexual stuff with each other in the same room, recording in a very tight, close proximity. So this book is slow burn to the max. Livy Hart is the queen of slow burn. She is the queen of banter. All of her books hit that little bit of a tension that you really want in a rom-com or in a romance. She knows how to create that tension that's just, oh my god, just fucking do it already. You know the fuck it trope? Livy Hart's queen at that. I love this book so much. Again, this was my intro to Livy because, I mean, it is her debut, but this was my intro to Livy, and I'm so glad that Britt found Livy on Twitter that one day, and we've all just never looked back. Okay, we are straying away from romance now and getting into more of a serious note. So one of my favorite authors, she writes some really hard-hitting contemporaries. And this is one of the ones that I recommend because just based on things that are happening in our world now, there's a lot of things that are going on when it comes to women in particular, and this author is just amazing when it comes to writing about these situations. This is I'm the Girl by Courtney Summers. This book follows Georgia. She is basically trying to walk in her mother's footsteps. Her mother is, unfortunately passed away, and she used to work at like this gentleman's club, and Georgia is just very, very close to the age in which she would be able to work at this place. Everything looks amazing from the outside looking in. It's very glamorous. Obviously, if her mother worked there, it's something spectacular. She goes to this place constantly, and one day when she's riding her bike towards there, she finds the body of a girl who has been murdered. She is shocked, she's stunned, and she's actually assaulted there. She's assaulted at the same location, and her bike is stolen. She's found by the owner of the club. This starts off her, not only her transition into becoming more entwined with the club, but she also becomes the subject of wrath from the sergeant of the police department, because the girl who was murdered was his daughter, and she knew this girl from school. Obviously, it's like a small town vibe. So she not only becomes like more entwined with the gentleman's club, she becomes the subject of ridicule from the people at school and from the sheriff's department because of the death of the sheriff's daughter. They want to know why she doesn't know anything, because she was in the same spot, very close to, at the time of the murder. She also ends up basically befriending the older sister of the girl who was murdered. And they end up kind of opening up to themselves when it comes to their sexuality and, who they're trying to become as individuals. But the story really takes a turn when Georgia intertwines herself even further into the gentleman's club and starts seeing the inner workings of what happens there and who the owner and what the owner of this place really is. And it's unfortunate. This is very much so a Jeffrey Epstein kind of vibe. It is heartbreaking. It is gorgeously written, but it is a hard book to get through. But despite how hard it is, I feel like it's such an important story that people don't really see in books very often. There are some books like this out there, but they're not comfortable. This book is not supposed to be comfortable. This book is supposed to hit you in a hard way, and it does. I recommend this book for many, many reasons. Mainly because I know that if people think of Courtney Summers, they automatically think of Sadie. I don't automatically think of Sadie when I think of Courtney Summers. I think of I'm the Girl, and I think of The Project. But because this kind of thing is happening more and more and more and more and more when it comes to young girls these days around the world, I feel like this is a really important book that, has a place in every single person's library. I always recommend reading any trigger warnings before picking up a book like this. It is very, very hard. Just like I said earlier, it's very hard to get through. So while I recommend this one to a lot of people, I have to say that read the trigger warnings and really read up on if you're okay to read this book, because mental health always comes before what people recommend on the internet. So I'm the Girl by Courtney Summers. So the next one is, again, a hard one. It was one that kept me up all night long. I read it in one sitting, and I don't regret it, because it is still a story, again, that I find important for people to read, and that is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. This follows a girl named Enchanted. She is an up-and-coming singer, or she's trying to be. She's just moved to the suburbs, and she's finding it difficult to be like one of the only black girls that are, you know, in her school. And she ends up auditioning for, I think it was a singing contest. She ends up auditioning for a singing contest, kind of like American Idol or something like that. And she catches the eye of an R&B superstar, Corey Fields. And she looks at him like he is the be-all end-all, and he takes her immediately under his wing. She looks at him like, this is it, like he is gonna be the one to skyrocket me into stardom. But things take a turn, and she ends up becoming somebody that he is able to manipulate and use and abuse, basically. So this really follows the manipulation and power struggle, and basically what people expect girls to do when they're trying to be a superstar. And I can't just say girls, because it happens to guys too. So I'm going to recant that.
It's exploitation.
It's the exploitation of people whose dreams of being a superstar, a singer, just, you know, an actress or actor, you know, somebody who wants to entertain. It's the exploitation of those young people by older people within the community and in the industry. Corey, the big guy, ends up murdered, and she was there at the time and has absolutely no memory of what has happened. But during this book, she is like trapped in his house. Her parents are trying to like intercede and get her back, but she's trapped. She's completely trapped by him and all that he has offered her and all that he has done for her, and she doesn't know how to break out of that. This kept me up. It kept me up at night. It was eye-opening. A lot of things in here I'll never understand, but I understand how important the story is, for sure. And it's just, again, beautifully written. Tiffany D. Jackson, again, one of my favorite authors. Her book, Monday's Not Coming, fucked me up, for sure. But I always recommend Grown because of the story of exploitation and manipulation behind it. Somebody's looking for something that's hard-hitting, definitely this one. It's a hard-hitting contemporary, and again, it's just a beautiful story, and I always recommend it. Yeah, I cried huge, like, anime tears when reading that book. So the next one is actually one of the romance series that, I think this is like a more of a YA romance, but I still love it, and I think that it's such a fun series. This is When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. I believe this turned into a TV show on Netflix, I think. I'm not 100% sure of what it's called, but this is a series, and this book is number 1 in the series. This follows Dimple and Rishi. Dimple is, you know, the kind of girl that just, you know, wants to get her education. She wants to live her life. She has all these big plans for herself, but her parents are hell-bent on her marrying a nice boy. That's where Rishi comes in. They are an arranged, pardon me, they are an arranged marriage couple. Rishi wants to be married. He wants to be the guy that is everything to Dimple. But Dimple is the girl that it just wants to be independent. She wants to go to college. She wants to finish her degree. She wants to do all these things. And Rishi's okay with that, but they have to fight her parents. Of course, you know, the story is very sweet. Again, it's not something that I would ever understand, right? Like an arranged marriage is not something that I would ever understand. I love how it's written in a way to educate more than anything, because I don't know a lot about the topic, but this book taught me a lot when it comes to that. And it's just fun. It's just, you know, it's just a really quick, entertaining read. And it really got me out of a slump when it came to what I wanted to read. I was kind of stuck. I read this before I started reading like true blue romance. So I read this before Birthday Girl. And I really enjoyed it. And again, this kind of got my foot in the door when it came to like traditional, you know, romance books and, you know, little rom-coms. But I think I've read this book twice, and I kind of really want to reread the whole series. Britt's favorite of this series is, I believe it's 10 Things I Hate About Pinky. I liked that one just fine, but When Dimple Met Rishi is definitely the one that I love the most. The next one I have talked about until I was blue in the face. I'm not going to go into a huge in-depth thing about it because no one needs to hear me gush about this one again. How to Sell a Haunted House. I have already recommended a few coworkers read this. The one coworker that has read it, she's rated it a 5-star too, agrees with me that there's something really fucking wrong with this puppet. I feel really bad for Pupkin. Like, thinking about the story more, Pupkin's story makes me really sad. It makes me really upset. And I actually remember like tearing up a little bit when reading this as well. Because like, while he is a messed up little dude, there's a reason for it. I recommend this as well, always, always, always. If you're looking for something really spooky with a really good story attached to it, How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix, read the book. All right. This one I found on a whim. I think I found it and then Britt found it at the same time. I think Britt found it through Books and Lala, and I saw it randomly at the library. I was looking for audiobooks to listen to while I was doing things and going for walks and stuff, short audiobooks, and this one popped up. So the first time I listened to this, I read this book was on audio, and then I went on a hunt to find the physical copy after Britt listened to it as well. It's just amazing. Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente. It is such a short little book. It's so short. Basically, so this book follows a girl who is married to a man, and they live in like this really weird neighborhood, okay? She is perfect for him. That is said several times. I am perfect for him. I was made for him. So her husband works outside of the home, and she's a housewife. She putters around the house and she does her wifely duties with a smile on her face, but she's never allowed in the basement. Never allowed in the basement. Her husband tells her, don't go in the basement, it's too dangerous. He says that he's working on something down there for her to make like her own little space, her own little like area for her to work in. And you know, the people of the neighborhood are on his side. Like, you know, just listen to him. Like, don't go into the basement. But she starts to feel like something's going on, and she goes down to the basement. Got it there. I'm not spoiling anything else. This is too short of a book. Read the book. It is absolutely fucked up. It is marvelous. It is so good.
Bonkers.
It's completely bonkers. That's the perfect word for it. It's bonkers. But look at the cover. The cover is also so gorgeous. And everything is perfect at the top. Until it's fucking not. So the next one is something that I also recommend to people who are looking for something a little different, but on the twisted side. This is Confessions by Kanae Minato. I did not read this book first, Britt did. Britt recommended this to me, saying like, if you want to, this is when I was in really heavy in my audiobook phase, because I was doing a lot of admin work at work. This book follows Yuko. So Yuko is a teacher and she has a 3-year-old daughter. Sometimes Yuko has to bring her daughter to the school, you know, but the kids in her class love her. The kids in her class love her daughter, and they play with her. They keep her company while Yuko is teaching. So, you know, it's a really great relationship, and There was no real cause for concern until there was a cause for concern, because there's always a fucking cause for concern. Something happens to her daughter and she ends up passing away on school grounds. It's unfortunate. I'm not going to spoil the whole book for you. But this book does not follow the story of Yuko bringing her daughter to school and, you know, the whole big thing happens and there's an investigation. That's not what this book is. This book is after all that. This book is Yuko giving her last lecture to her class and revealing that she has done something so utterly fucked up because she knows that there are a few people in her class that are responsible for her daughter's death, and she's not going to allow them to live with this knowledge silently. She's gonna fuck up their lives, and she did. It is, again, such a wild story of grief, what grief will do, what limits people will go to seek revenge on the people that have harmed their loved ones, especially their children. It is a powerful story. Again, I finished this all in one go. I went to Brit after the audiobook was done and I went, what the fuck? She was like, I know.
I literally had my hand over my mouth while I was reading.
Yeah, because it's so messed up. But I would do the same thing. I would do the same thing. The back of the book says her pupils murdered her daughter. Now she will have her revenge. Read the book just for her revenge. You'll never believe it. You will never believe it. So the final book is something that I just recently started recommending to people because I have found this author within the last month. And that is Married to the Alien Cowboy by Yrsa Dex. No one is ever going to make me shut up about this series. Like, period. Never gonna happen. It's just everybody get used to seeing it because it is my favorite. So this series, I know I've already spoken about it. It follows a penal colony of alien cowboys. They didn't start off as cowboys, obviously. So what happened was they ended up committing like murder on their home planet when they were kids, and they were sent to this penal planet in order to basically work off their debt for the rest of their lives by, you know, supplying their home planet with resources from like cattle farming and things like that. And the warden of them has found that maybe they need something extra in their lives to not only keep them motivated, but to help them through life, like, you know, to make their lives better, because they're not bad people. And he launches a bride program, and on the main planet where everyone is from, well, not them, but like the girls are from, an ad is run and girls are chosen to marry the guys on the penal colony. And this is book one. This follows Cherry and Silas, which is Cherry and Silas. And it's the reason why I love it is because there's this huge amount of miscommunication in these books that is just charming and funny. I sat here and every single one of these books I read cover to cover. I didn't stop reading them once I started them. I just sat here with my Kindle reading it cover to cover, and then when I was done book 3, I insisted Brit find them on Amazon for me and buy them, and she did. And book 4 was just released right here, Married to the Alien Warden, or Wanted by the Alien Warden. And I finished it already. It's already done. I'm waiting on book 5, which comes out at the end of this month. I'm so excited. I'm super stoked. So yeah, like this series has just become a really big comfort read for me, and I love that I have found it. Like, Brit started my whole alien thing with Ice Planet Barbarian. She was like, you know, she said that she read book 1, and I'm already on book 8. I haven't read in a little bit, but I'm on book 8 of it. And then she told me about Yrsa Dex and said, hey, you should kind of, you know, go look at her. And I haven't looked back ever since. So definitely recommend if you want something just really funny, really cute, because it is really cute. It's a rom-com for sure. It's super funny though, so I recommend it for sure. All right, those are all of the books that I recommend all the time. All the time. I am exhausted. Yeah, it's, I miss talking about books that I loved like ages ago, because like I only really talk about new books nowadays, and I haven't actually like held Grown in my hands in a long time, you know. And I love talking about books that I loved when, you know, they first came out, or when I first read them years ago. And the fact that I can still recommend these books makes me really happy. So yeah, that's the video, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.